ONVIF and PSIA are two separate specifications that have been put forward by two separate committees with the objective of creating a global standard for the security industry. So in essence, it's a very noble cause, I think. It's a great idea because it's all about creating a framework by which devices and software can communicate and integrate seamlessly with each other. So for example, you should be able to get ONVIF compliant IP cameras and buy ONVIF compliant software knowing that the two will communicate and integrate with each other seamlessly. That's the idea. And it's a good one. It's certainly a good one. It's something the security industry desperately needs. However, at the moment, just keep in mind that neither ONVIF nor PSIA are standards. They're both specifications. Just like in any industry, whether you're talking about food, pharmaceutical, construction, telecommunication, they all have specifications and initiatives that are going through the process. Some become standards, others don't. But to become a standard, the specification must meet certain requirements. It must go through certain guidelines and processes before it can happen, even if it's not a ratified standard, even if it's just a de facto standard. That still needs to occur. And neither specification is there yet. They're not mature enough to be referred to as a standard. It's probably a good idea to point out that in the corporate FAQ document that ONVIF have put together, it states, the specification developed by ONVIF is not a standard in itself. The document goes on to say that it can become a standard by being adopted via the official channels or as a de facto standard. However, there is still a way to go before this happens. Where ONVIF does refer to the benefits of a global standard for network video technology, this is worded in a future tense in terms of what could be achieved if the goals were met. But as it stands to date, this is not a reality, and for good reason, it is not as yet a ratified standard. The added benefits of IP video has brought with it added complexity. What I mean by that is when you consider analog camera technology, they are dumb devices and all they do is stream low resolution video, but the simplicity of the device means it's plug and play. Any brand of analog camera will work pretty much with any brand of DVR. Different story with IP camera technology. In saying that, there are plug and play environments between IP cameras and the recording software, but that comes at a price. How it works is the IP camera manufacturer has to pay for the privilege of having their devices integrated in with the software, and the level of integration of the camera's functions into the software, the depth of integration, is determined by how much money the camera manufacturer is prepared to spend. That's why the larger camera manufacturers with big budgets can say, you go to their training sessions and they'll tell you our devices are supported by 90% of the video management software applications out there. And the smaller camera manufacturers, they can't compete at that level. They don't have the budgets. And where they are integrated, in most cases with the VMS, it's very, very rudimentary integration. That's why when you see these compatibility lists released by the VMS vendors, where they might, list 300 cameras, you've got to take that with a pinch of salt. You can't just look at it on face value because the majority of the camera models on that list have very rudimentary, very basic integration. What's going to happen is, with bringing in a universal enabler, that's going to change the playing rules, because by having a central standard, any tiny workshop out of Asia can produce a camera as long as it's compliant with that software, that standard. They can also say our cameras are compliant or work with 90% of the video management software applications out there. That's where it's eventually going to get to. And what will happen is it will create massive commoditization at that entry level. And of course, it's going to dramatically drive down the IP camera pricing. To date, how it's worked is the developers of the so-called open platform video management software obtain development kits from the camera manufacturers, and based on how much time and money the manufacturer is prepared to spend on the integration will determine how much of the camera's functions are integrated, which in turn determines how powerful and comprehensive the overall solution is. The ONVIF specification will work in a similar way, and the integration of the camera's functions will remain at a basic level. ONVIF is not about integrating innovative, leading-edge technology. It's about basic integration. Deeper integration of the more advanced and innovative functions that the IP camera may possess will be an extra addition over and above what the ONVIF spec offers, which the camera vendor will still need to pay the software developer to have integrated if that's their choice. Camera vendors who will rely purely on the ONVIF specification for integration will find themselves with a very commoditized offering, making it extremely difficult to stand out from the other camera manufacturers. Cameras with inbuilt video management software will not need to be concerned with relying on third-party software integration. Of the two specifications, OMVIF is the one that seems to have the most amount of support. And talking to installers and integrators that have been out there in the field setting up these OMVIF compliant systems are saying it's been completely chaotic. You cannot assume that an OMVIF compliant camera will seamlessly integrate with an OMVIF compliant video management software system. So one of the big problems that's been occurring is that some of the manufacturers have been dragging their feet to integrate the latest OMVIF specification. And as a result, there's been integration problems. Profile S is a step forward. It's something that's been recently released by OMVIF to help users navigate through the specification process. But as far as in the field, plug and play, seamless integration goes, we've got a long way to go. And for good reason, OMVIF and PSIA currently are still not ratified standards. As a final note, remember, standards are a guideline, they're a framework. The standard itself is not a guarantee of quality. It's how well the standard has been implemented will determine how good the solution is. As a case in point, when I first moved into this building, I organised a broadband service to be connected, and the telco provided a wireless router. And the device was terrible because it had a really bad implementation of the 802.11n standard. You know, great standard, bad implementation, so I had to replace it with another device. And it's no different than with the security industry. You know, every manufacturer's got their hand up saying, we support standards. We've got HDTV cameras and we only use the H.264 codec. So that's an absolute guarantee, Mr. Customer, of, you know, quality. And that's why we have the best solutions. But I'm sorry, but that's really dumbing down the message, and that's treating customers like they're idiots, because it's how the technology, how the standards are implemented that will determine the technology results, not the fact that you're using those standards. For example, I've seen lots of HDTV cameras capturing video in 1080p, and while the resolution's high, the image quality is terrible. And a lot of it's got to do with how well the H.264 profile's been implemented. You know, there's over a dozen profiles of H.264, and each have their strengths and weaknesses, and they all have their own toolkits. How well the developers have implemented that profile into the camera determines how good the video quality is. And it's no different with this global standard the two committees are pushing for. Once they get it right, what it will ensure is that you've got greater interoperability, you've got openness and greater interaction between and integration between cameras and software. But it will not guarantee quality control. In fact, what I think we're going to see a lot more of once there is a standard in place is that a lot of the Asian manufacturers are going to move into this market with low-cost devices, and I think we're going to see quality control drop dramatically because just because a camera works with 90% of the video management software products out there, it doesn't mean it's a good quality product. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. Thanks for watching. To stay informed as new videos are released, subscribe to the IP Academy channel.